everybody. Welcome to day 3 of Maison&Objet. How are we all feeling? Must be standing strong at this point, and it's a Saturday, so thank you for all being here. Welcome to this conversation. Just to introduce myself, I'm Roddy Clarke. I'm a design journalist that explores a variety of different topics across design, architecture, and lifestyle. And today we are looking at the world of museum retail and how it has evolved and how consumer behavior has evolved and how museums are responding to those changes. And I'm very excited to introduce you to a panel of industry experts. We have Emmanuel Plat of MoMA. We've got Virginie Perreau of the Grand Palais. We have Ed Simpson from the National Portrait Gallery and Alberto Brusamolino of Musée Rodin. So a wealth of knowledge on the stage, and I'm sure there will be 10 minutes at the end of the conversation where you can ask questions, so feel free to think of those questions while we're talking. But coming to you, Emmanuel, first, I think it would be great if you could introduce yourself and your role at MoMA in more detail.
Yeah, so good morning or good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel Plat. I'm the Director of Merchandising for MoMA Design Store. I was born actually in Paris, but I've been living in New York for 26 years. So I'm a bit of a New Yorker, I guess. And my role is to essentially select all the objects you find in our shops. So I work with a team of very talented buyers, and we come to Maison&Objet twice a year. This is obviously a very important moment for us, and we walk all these aisles like many of you. And we, try to find the next product that will inspire us and excite our customers.
And you're regarded as one of the leading digital sort of global design stores in the world. How has this evolved since the launch of the digital platform, and what was the initial mission when launching this?
So it's a very loaded question because MoMA was founded in 1929. And very shortly after the museum opened, the architecture and design collection was created in the 1930s. So from the very beginning, whatever was presented and sold in the museum shop was informed by the design collection. At the beginning, the store was really, selling pamphlets and books and just art reproductions. However, the museum organized very early on a number of very important exhibitions, such as the good design exhibitions in the 1940s, 1950s, the low-cost furniture competition, where such as Ray and Charles Eames and Eros Harinen entered those competitions and won prizes. Some of those products were available commercially. And you could actually find in the galleries a price list that would direct you to a department store, because obviously they were not selling furniture in the museum at the time, where you could acquire some of those pieces, right? So that really informed how we look at product. And as a matter of fact, we consider MoMA Design Store more a design store than a museum store.
And that's really interesting. And you talk about the connection between the exhibitions and the products. Again, that has changed in recent years as well. And how is that evolving?
Yeah, and I want to clarify, the exhibition is one thing, but the design collection is another thing. So when we select objects, anything that we find here, we're going to review and approve them with curators from the museum. And essentially, the process is to try to answer the question, why MoMA? Why do we think this is interesting? Why do we think this is important? And to answer that question, we have, over the years, developed filters, the kind of guidelines. It could be as simple as basic as, is the artist or the designer in the permanent collection? Is this product offering a solution to a problem we may encounter on a daily life? Like, I need a phone charger for my phone, right? Is the product supporting sustainable practices? Is the product educational? is it, supporting cultural and gender diversity? And so a number of filters, is it using innovative material, new technologies? And so when we look at objects, we have this in our heads. And then when we talk to our creators, we can answer that question, why MoMA?
And I think, you've bridged that gap between art and design as well. And have you seen consumers for both art and design, is that awareness and that desire for both sort of merged into one?
Yes and no. I think what's really special about what we do is to create a journey of discovery. So some people are very savvy in art and design. Some others are maybe not so knowledgeable about it, but this is a bridge between the museum and the store. So obviously, we have close to 3 million people visiting museum per year, and half of those individuals come to the store. But we also have a similar number of people visiting the stores that may not be familiar with MoMA, who never have visited the museum, or may be intimidated by the museum. And we're creating that bridge to introduce them to contemporary art and design. So the objects, in a way, are a vehicle to create that bridge. And it's quite fascinating when you see people coming to the store and getting their jaw dropping, saying, "Oh, what is this?" Right? That's the most satisfying thing, is when you get people to just discover this object, things they didn't know existed, and falling in love with them.
I think it's really interesting because, I come from a design background, and I've often felt like the art world is a bit out of my reach and it's quite exclusive, but design is that sort of conduit that has brought us into the art world, and there's that dialogue now that makes it feel more open and inclusive.
Totally, and I think you mentioned, artist products. There are a number of living artists that have a very commercial mind, and are very aware that retail is a way to reach a larger audience. So there is the art market. The art market is one thing, but then there is effectively, as you know, artists that are extremely coveted from many people, and when they, launch a product or drop a product, should I say, that can become very desirable.
Fascinating. And Virginie, coming on to you, if you could introduce yourself and the work that you do at the Grand Palais.
So I am the sales and marketing manager of the Grand Palais RMN, which basically means I work for cultural retail. In France, most of the museums choose to actually outsource the running of their shop, book and gift shop, and they do this through competitive bidding processes. And we have the pleasure and the honor to be working for 37 major institutions in France, including the Musée du Louvre, the Musée d'Orsay and Orangerie, the Château de Versailles, the Centre Pompidou till it closed in June, also the Fondation Louis Vuitton. And for all of those museums, we actually do the whole work of running the shop, which obviously a large part of it is actually choosing what we're going to be selling in the shop, also the layout, and that's what we do.
And obviously having that visibility across multiple museums, what consumer shifts have been quite notable in the last decade?
It's been a major consumer shifts that we've seen. For about 15 years, if you go way back, museum shops were actually more of a bookshop and a very small souvenir shop where you only found some products that were a very literal reproduction of the iconic works of the museums. We are no longer in that. We really are now with real cultural concept stores where we have a bookshop. We also have souvenirs, of course, because we have part of the people that are coming in the shop that are looking for souvenirs. But we also have much more creative works within our shops, and that's what the public is now expecting. And of course, all of the trends, which are major retail trends, have an impact on our activity because we are a retail activity.
And you produce a lot of exclusive collaborations. What are you looking for when you're sourcing designers and brands to work with on those?
The first thing is that before we even start to think about what we're going to be doing in the shop, we have a whole team which is going to work on the DNA of the shop to have a really in-depth understanding of what the DNA of the museum is, to really understand the collections, the exhibition, the cultural program, where it's going to, what it was, what the museum was, and towards what the museum is going. And once we have that very much in-depth understanding of the museum, then our team is going to be looking at designers which have that proximity with the museum, with its DNA, with where it's going. And then once we've chosen the designers and before actually working with them, we'll check with the marketing departments of the museums, because now in French museums we have some very competitive, very skilled marketing departments. So we'll check with them if what we believe is the right designer, they feel that it's also, the right mark for them, and then we'll start the process. And then we'll let the creator get inspired.
And that must be a fascinating process to witness as well.
Yes, it's absolutely fascinating. Just like to point out that Hervé Guyardeau, which is working for the marketing department, does that with an absolutely fantastic team. And I think it's very exciting. And then having those exchanges between the designer, the museum, and his team are very challenging and very nice times.
And you mentioned earlier about the spatial layouts of stores. How has this changed across the museums that you've worked with?
Okay, it's now really interesting. We need to make sure that the shop layout is very much an immersive shop layout. Sorry, we are going to be using material. We're going to be using lighting, which really are going to have give a very nice experience client to all our customers. But it's always a bit tricky question, because changing the full layout of the shop every time we win a bind is very not sustainable. So we have that very tricky thing where we really need to have our stores really change, and at the same time we try to reuse as much as we can and to use material which are very sustainable, and that's not an easy one. That's a tricky question every time.
Pretty much, and sustainability is becoming, again, an increasing priority for every store, isn't it?
It's an increasing priority because, first of all, we all have that wish to become much more sustainable, and Grand Palais is very implicated in this. But also, as we work for museums, and museums are very interested in their own sustainability policy, and we're part of the museum, because when you walk into a shop in the Louvre, you don't think you're walking into Grand Palais RMN. You think, and you're right, you're walking into the Louvre. So our sustainability is their sustainability. And also, I think that the customers are really expecting sustainability. It's very important. I know that storytelling, where you say this was made in a petit atelier, a small factory close to Paris, by a very small company, which is reusing things that used to be used in the past, and that's really important for customers. So yeah, great. It's a really part of our job.
And that desire for storytelling, as you say, consumers are so much more conscious now, but that's really what's bringing the magic to these stores, is telling those individual stories, isn't it?
Yes, I think that's one of the key points for the new stores, is to make sure we're actually telling a story, that we're bringing art as something that is very sensible. And we take great pride in making sure that we have the same high standard of qualities for a small souvenir, which somebody's just going to, grab, and for some more creative. But we always try to have very high standards and make sure there's storytelling in a mug, if the mug is representing one of the artworks of the museum. And so we try to really make a story out of that. And
as MoMA do so well, how are the museums that you're working with bridging that gap between the physical and digital worlds?
Probably not as well as my colleague, for sure, because everybody just looks at the MoMA digital, all they're doing, and it's just extraordinary. But there's a real quest for having the digital, and the museums are very part of it. They're very helpful. They're also very controlling on that part, but they're very, very helpful because obviously it's something which is very expected. And I must say that the recent problems we have in France concerning sending our products to the United States, which is 25% of our customers, is a real drawback for us.
It's fascinating. And coming on to you, Ed, if you could introduce yourself and your role to the audience.
Hello, I'm Ed Simpson, and I'm the Buying and Product Development Manager for the National Portrait Galleries. When I started about 4 years ago, the gallery was closed for renovations, so we completely re-strategized how the gallery bought products and how the shops were displayed. I think previously, I don't know if anyone's been to visit before, but the shops were maybe seen as very traditional, perhaps a little bit fusty, an English word. But now we're really trying to re-strategize and bring it more to life and kind of bring the stories. I mean, the gallery itself has the largest collection of portraits in the world, and it's bringing the stories of the portraits to life. And it doesn't have to be too complicated. It can be done in a very straightforward way. But we really strategized and really thought about what we were trying to do there and how we can bring it to life. And the new shop designs are beautiful, and the product designs are beautiful. So I think it's kind of, re-strategizing it.
And you've brought in a lot of exclusive collaborations. You work with makers, and you've commissioned them to produce these objects. Has that desire, you've really noticed that desire for this exclusivity sort of really has shaped the shop as it stands today?
Yeah, I think, like the other guys have been saying, I think customers are expecting something different these days. And as you can see on the screen, we produced a range of products with GPRmn, which is very closely connected to the renovation of the building. We worked with GPRmn on a commission for some new doors for the main entrance. And then from that artwork that she created for the doors, we created ceramics. So it always has to have that close connection to the gallery in some way. And I think, like Emmanuel was saying, there's a way of kind of making sure there is that connection to the museum or the gallery or the artwork. But yeah, customers really expect it, and we're really growing on that. We're also working with Luc Hall, who I saw did arrange for the Louvre as well, connecting with an exhibition opening in October. So yeah, really building on that. It's really exciting for us as well. It keeps everything really fresh and really builds relationships with designers and artists as well, and makes that connection to a kind of wearable piece that's not so much about a portrait, but it's about just something beautiful that interprets the portrait or the story of the exhibition.
You work with a lot of local artists across the UK, don't you? And is that something that's quite important to you, to work locally?
I'd say so. I think coming from the sustainability aspect especially, and the storytelling aspect, I'd say working with small makers just it kind of brings something fresh and new to the customers. I think we've worked with a lot of, for example, ceramicists who have never had stockists before. And I think customers are just really excited to see something really new and exciting. And it kind of starts off the ceramicist's careers as well. So it's really great to kind of nurture that talent. So yeah.
And since the store's opened, obviously again, because it bridges the gap between art and design, you've got home textiles and accessories in the store. Has that impacted the demographic of the people visiting the museum?
I hope so. I think part of our strategy for reopening was to bring in a new audience. I think, like I said before, it's seen as quite a traditional institution, which perhaps had a certain demographic, and we're trying to open it up to a more diverse, younger demographic. And I feel like we have done that because we tried to do that by representation within the shops. So that could be representation with the makers or designers we work with, or just the products we work with. So it's really trying to appeal to more traditional existing audience, but the new audiences as well, and just really opening up to everyone, which is what the gallery is about. It's about kind of portraiture, representing a kind of living portrait of Britain is our tagline. So yeah, it's representing what Britain is like nowadays.
And how often do you bring in new design collections in the store? What's the cycle? How does it work?
Quite often. I'd say with every exhibition, we have a whole new range. So we do focus on our exhibitions quite a lot. We have maybe 4 main exhibitions every year. And then we'll also work seasonally as well. So Christmas, of course, is very important for us. We've just launched it this week. And kind of thinking about spring, summer too. But then we'll also have additional artist product ranges coming in. And yeah, I'd say maybe 6 or 7 new ranges come in every year. So keep it fresh.
Yeah, exciting. Thank you. And Alberto, coming on to you, if you could introduce yourself to the audience.
Bonjour à vous. I am Alberto, and I joined the staff of Rodin Museum department in 2002, and I am in charge of product marketing and visual merchandising.
Just hold the mic a bit closer.
Yes, sorry. I am in charge of product marketing and visual merchandising, and there is something important also to say is that the bookshop of Rodin Museum is an independent bookshop. So I try with my head chef, with all the staff of the department, to control all the process. I made a research of a product and also the production, control the production, and also at the end the display of the product in the bookshop, because this is something very important for us since we have moved in the new shop in 2006, I think. Yeah.
And having that independence, has it helped you to really strengthen and develop your own retail identity?
I think that at the base is something very good because all go very fast. We have a meeting, we talk a lot, and to work in Rodin Museum is like a small family, if we can say this, because yes, we talk a lot. There is, and we decide at the beginning of each year what is going to be the line of development of the bookshop, if we have to introduce new products, new lines, etc., and so on. And so, yes, I can say that if the direction say yes, and if it's all is fine with the head chef and with the staff, all can be very fast. And I think that this is very good because now I really think that a museum bookshop is a shop like another shop. So we have to change. We have to do new things very, very fast, and so it's something that is very important for the development of the shop. Yeah.
And what have been some of the biggest changes that you've seen over the last decade?
When I arrived, and at the beginning, the shop was in a small room at the entrance of the museum, and so it was like a little bit more a corner. And after, in 2006, they decided to make works for the exhibition space. That is a second place after the museum, but just in front of the museum. And the director at that moment, that he was loving MoMA shop, decided to make a very, very big change and to create a shop that is open with a very, very big window on the Rue de Varennes. That is quite strange because normally the bookshop of museum is inside the museum, and to be open off the street, it was a big change. And at the same time, we have to rethink also all the strategy, if we can say, completely, because at the beginning, when we were in at the other side, there was only, like all the museum had in before 2000 here, there was some postcard, some pencil, and some T-shirt, and we have something very, very, very special since the beginning of the opening of the shop. We make a reproduction of sculpture of Rodin. That is very important to say also, because this started from the beginning of the opening of the shop in the museum, because we have the original mold, so we can do a reproduction in resin, but it's very artisanal made. So, and in France, after that 12 bronze is done and sold, what you can do after is to make reproduction, and it's for this also that you are welcome to see us in our booth that is just near here at the Salon Maison&Objet.
Yeah, and you were one of the first museums to exhibit at Maison&Objet. And how important has the fair been for you?
How
important has Maison&Objet been in developing your retail strategy?
I think that very important, because when we have to rethink all the strategy in 2006, one of the most important things it was to find a new company and to change completely also the visual for the products. And so I remember very well that at the first time that I came here, I worked with a very, very young company at that moment. For example, for people that they know, Papier Tigre, Macon et Lescaut, all this kind of company that I think you know, GPRmn, and it was for us very very new and very strange, because before this we were using to put a photo of a sculpture on a T-shirt, on a stationery and things like this. But now with they help us to give a new dimension also to Rodin, something more, we can say more up to date, more fashion in a way, more yes, different, and to rethink that yes, Rodin is a sculpture, yes, the shop is a mono-thematic shop, but we can also do something more up to date. But we have also to respect the identity also. That is very important for me also, and for our staff, to respect the identity of Rodin. So there is a limit also.
Yeah, well, that must guide everything that you do.
Yeah,
it's shaped around that. I think it's interesting speaking to all of you. You've all got sort of slightly different strategies and approaches, but there must be makers and designers and brands in the audience that are, you know, would love to be stocked in one of your stores or to catch your attention. What advice would you have? There must be some unifying factors that you're all looking for, something that would, you know, that catches your eye in the sort of contemporary world of design and art today. What advice would you have to brands that are trying to catch your attention?
Do something different, right? Stand out from the rest, because our job, you know, we see a lot of products. I can walk in many stores and immediately I know the majority of the products, and there's nothing more interesting than to discover things you don't know, right? So it is the same for the customers, right? If you show them a product they don't know existed, if you tell the story about the product, how it was made, why is it made this way, why is it special, what's special about the product, I think that really goes back to what you were saying about, you know, the storytelling and how important it is And effectively today, you can do that in the store, you can do that online, you can do that with social media. So we have all a panoply of tools at our disposal to communicate those stories. But again, I go back to the experience of, pushing the door and visiting the shop and being exposed to this object you have never seen before. So the advice is as follows, do something different, do something that's standard. Don't try to copy whatever this company did that was a big success and do it your own way. No, just do something radically different and we will notice.
That's really, you were going to add to that?
No, I mean, he said it so well. Just be very authentic, I think, but that's kind of exactly what he said.
Well, I think that's, because you're all avoiding sort of the homogeneity that might have existed in sort of previous times. And it is something about those storytelling aspects. And, you all have the unique ability to tell these stories in a very, communicative way. And is that something, you touched on it earlier, you've noticed from consumers as well, is that desire for narrative and finding out about how things are made and the why things are made? Is that something you're trying to push more and more?
Yeah, I definitely think it's something we do. It's like almost transparency. It's like showing, and it's sharing kind of how we develop products. And people are really interested and they want to know where things have come from and how they came about into the shop, how they arrived, and why we made these decisions. So, I think it's really important. And I think going back to the other question, kind of the uniqueness, and like Emmanuel was saying, just having something really different is something we very look for. I don't want to go to a shop and see the same thing over and over again. So, it's so important.
And touching on the physical experience of the stores, how do you see that evolving in the future? Will they become more experiential? Will they become almost extensions of the exhibitions themselves? How do you each see those experiences changing?
I think that the visual display of in a shop is going to become more and more important because it's finished for, I think, the period of to have in a shop a lot of things, and you have to make a good selection, and people are very carefully also to find something that there is no in another place. So it's for this that better to have less than so many things, and also us, like a shop, in about 2015, we reduced the quantity of product to make a very strong selection, a personal selection, and that is quite difficult also because we have only things around Rodin. So but for the moment we arrive to do something.
I think merchandising is very important.
Yeah.
Actually, I visited the Grand Palais shop on Thursday, and it's very interesting because I've seen objects that I know, but they're shown in a way that you almost like they look in a different spin because the juxtaposition with other objects from different categories make them feel special. And this is the art of what we do, is to pick and cherry pick those few objects that are, we think are really interesting and put them in a different lens. So you all can see them and you may know this object, but you're like, oh yeah, that looks really good, right? And I did work before my experience at MoMA. I worked for the Conran shop for 19 years. And this is something that Terence Conran did very, very well, is create dream through merchandising and setting up, tables or living rooms where you will see product in a different lens and a different way that you used to see them. And that will create that wow factor. I think, we all want to create dream. We all want to bring a smile to our face. And I think what we're trying to achieve is effectively kind of get people to have a good moment by surrounding themselves with those objects.
And as you've described, the curating of these experiences, the selection of the products, it's a very human process. but how do you see the digital world changing, especially with things like AI? How is this going to evolve?
Well, I'm not an expert on AI, but I think they're all tools. It's just a different ways, and again, an added value to be able to tell all the stories we want to tell. So effectively, you may come to the store in the future and have a QR code, or even, I don't know, there will be some kind of signal that will tell the story of the product on your phone or something. But you have to see this as a plus. But also understand that it's beneficial for some products, and for others, you have to touch the product, you have to feel the product, you have to play with it, you have to feel the fiber if it's a textile, or you know, and I think people really appreciate the craftsmanship of some of those products. So there is kind of almost like a yin and a yang, right? Like a extremely basic, fundamental relation to the product, and then effectively this added information that exists. And there's some products we sell, for instance, a suitcase, and if I show you the suitcase, you say, okay, well, it looks nice, but what's special about it? But there is a video that's gonna tell you what's special about it. You're gonna see actually all the features and the details you would have not seen if you just look at the suitcase. So you have just to use those tools as benefits and advantages to communicate what's special about the product.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that the tools can actually enable the customers to see what's behind the product, how it was made, the people that have absolutely great skills that actually made the products. And that's a very interesting part. But the emotion is very much when you see the product, when you touch the product, when you imagine the product, how it's going to look in your home, or the pleasure you're going to be procuring the person to which you're going to give that product. So I think the product is really, the emotion is in the product. And of course, all the new technologies can give the customers the behind the scene information that also participates to understand why that product is so special.
I think it's lovely to hear, and I think this applies to all of retail. It's like never lose that emotion. It's what fuels what I do as a journalist. You know, I write these stories because of the emotion that I feel when I experience product, and I think those stories really come to life in these settings. I'm aware of time, and I'd love to open up to the audience because I'm sure there must be a lot of questions. And don't be shy. Someone has to be first. So please put your hands up, and we'll bring a mic over to you. We've got a question at the back. Can we get a mic to the back? Thank you. Pop your hand up. Yeah, at the back. Hello. Where's the technical team? 1 second, we'll get you a mic.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. My name is Daria, thank you very much.
Can we turn the volume up?
Have to come. Oh, hi. My name is Daria, thank you very much. It was very interesting. I have a question. Yeah, maybe I missed some information, but if you also consider designer or atelier or supplier out from abroad, not from France for the Louvre museums, or if you consider only locals?
So basically, would you consider only locals or international brands as well?
No, we consider local as well as international brands. For example, in one of the slides, you can see a full collection we've made with Look It Were All, which is not French, which is actually British. Yeah. So no, international. As far as the suppliers are concerned, we're really going to try to source in France, but we can work, of course, with international also.
Yeah, absolutely. We do work actually mostly with brands from abroad. There's a lot of talented designers and companies in the US, but we like to find those products that are not widely available. And we buy a lot from Japan. We buy a lot from Europe. Italy, France, Spain, Germany, Scandinavia. So we bring product from all over.
Okay, thank you so much. One more question. Whenever you consider that these designs are really relevant, it's great, it's meant to be placed in the shop, is it about this brand and this creator that he's already has some fame, or is it about really about the authenticity of the product? Like, for example, it's a new designer and he doesn't know yet. Okay, he's not known yet, but his piece is like amazing. Would you consider it right away, or you will have to wait until this person gains some popularity?
No, of course, if it's amazing, we will jump on it. You know, many people in this room or in this hall will tell you actually that many times we turn down products by big companies and very well-known designers because it's really about the product. And everybody thinks their product is the best one and the right one, but that's not the case always, at least for what we are trying to achieve.
Thank you. Same here. We really try to work with really young designers. Also, the great thing about young designers is they're happy to give us exclusive possibility to showcase their products, and that's a very important part also for us, because that's what customers are expecting, to discover new products and new designers.
I'd say we're the same, actually. Yeah, I think we kind of look for the exclusives and the kind of smaller maker, just so it's something fresh for everyone to find. And they're just so much easier. Well, tend to be easier to work with, and they're just more interesting to work with. So I'd say there's that. Yeah.
Yes, also for me, we work with the young designer and with new brands because they can give us new ideas and new things. And at the base, I think that we have always to try, and after we will see. Make something new is always good. After,
I think you've all brought popularity to a lot of emerging talent over the years, so I think it's hugely impactful when they do get placed in one of these stores. Any other questions? Got one at the front here. Just here.
Hello, my name is Ju. I'm creative director from New York. Thank you so much for the talk. It was very inspiring. And as a consumer/creative, I've also noticed that you've mentioned that museum stores used to be just postcards where people come to museum and just like grab one or two things that they might never use it or look at it after, but now it's becoming more like a trend and culture where people actually go to the store as like a souvenir store. And when my friend come to New York, I go to MoMA store just to, have them something to bring back and like bring the culture or the memories or like the emotion that they had in the city. So my question is, and other brands such as like Ritz-Carlton just opened their clothing line, maybe inspired by the change that you guys made. Have you guys considered that when you were selecting items? For example, now it's becoming museum stores over museums sometimes. How was there part of your goal to do that? So for example, there are a lot of people becoming like fan of MoMA store, fan of, museum stores. Like it's kind of bringing back, people to have their personal relationship to the museum even. Do you even, was that part of your goal, or do you see that, and how do you feel about that?
Well, I guess in the case of MoMA, it's true that it's become a brand. So, we've been very successful with our collaboration with New Era, which is a company that makes all the MLB, the Major Baseball League hats. And there's a why MoMA reason there, because we had an exhibition in 2017 called Items is Fashion Modern. There was kind of revisiting 100 11 pieces that had of garment that had an influence on society. So the Yankee hat was one of them. But yes, it's about diffusion of the brand, so outreach, and if we can make the museum visible to as many people as possible, that's great to bring visitation. Because again, the goal is to make good design available for everyone and bring visitors to the museum. So when we partner with some of the brands you see on the slide here, basically people are interacting with MoMA in their home, and then maybe one day they will have the opportunity to visit the museum and discover all the great artworks that are in the museum.
And I would just add that one of the things we also do in museum shops is really address families, and we address kids, and we really try to make some products which are going to bring the family together, playing with product has developed especially for kids, and that's going to get them to actually want to go to the museum with the kids again, and that's also a huge part of our job.
Love that. We are out.
Thank you so much.
We are out of time, but I do want one final question just out there, and then we will wrap up after that.
I'll be quick. First of all, thank you all so much for this information that I think is gold for young designers. So my question is, I thought it was very interesting, Emmanuel. You spoke about, from a brand perspective, we should focus on innovating and not copy other brands. But from a young designer's perspective, if we are innovating, and we want to make you notice you, and we're in the heart of business and innovation here in Maison&Objet, how are we not afraid, and how do we make you notice our innovations? Thank you so much.
Great question. Who wants to take this one? Go for it.
I'm happy to take it.
Yeah.
Well, again, we hope we are skilled enough to notice you, right? That's what we do when we walk these aisles. And I have plenty of examples of products we discovered here and other places in the world that almost MoMA was a launchpad for these companies or these designers. And then it's really interesting to see the product you brought to the store first, to then see it in those big cities such as London, Paris, Tokyo, in other great venues. And one last thing I would say that we considered other retailers and peers as very talented as well. So not only we come to places like this, but we visit a lot of shops because it's always very inspiring, and there is always someone that has, found something that you didn't know. And again, it goes back to that same question.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We do have a really tight schedule today, so we are going to have to wrap up there. But thank you to everyone for coming. And as you say, I think the insight that you've shared has been gold, especially for emerging talent. So thank you all for your time. And yeah, hope you all have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.